All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Tuesday, September 27th. Your boy is sad because it's almost October. I am not down for spooky season. I hate the fall. I'm a well-known fall hater. And as I said, look, I'll welcome all debate on this topic. Vosh is very pro-fall. He is wrong. The Vanguard boys, Zach and Gavin, are very pro-fall. They are wrong. I think Mac, good politic guy, he might be pro-fall as well. I've never seen a group of people be more objectively incorrect than I have on this debate. I will debate this one until my dying day. I will die on this hill. I don't care if I'm the only person saying fuck the fall, but fuck the fall is indeed accurate. So anyway, I'm not liking it, man. Sun setting earlier, getting the little bits of the sprinkle of the seasonal depression just slowly starting to creep up on you a little bit. So not fun at all. But anyway, enough about my own issues. So we're gonna talk today about a judge who went absolutely insane in Arizona, and he's enforcing an abortion ban from before Arizona was even a state. I don't know how it's possible to come to the conclusion that this judge did, but nonetheless, we will talk about it. I also have Bill Maher scolds Michael Moore after Michael Moore sort of offends Republicans and perhaps right-wing listeners of Bill Maher. Then I have Fox News is turning on Republicans over their shitty new agenda that they just released. There's a line of questions that is way more aggressive than I've seen previously when Fox News talks to Republicans. Usually they're like giving them a smooth hand job under the table. That indeed is not what happened in this instance. And then I got some new polls, a tale of contradictory polls when it comes to the Democrats. Biden is somehow at the same time skyrocketing in popularity, but also the party's like, sort of fuck you and step aside, son. And Ted Cruz is going to explain to everybody exactly why Donald Trump is not criticized among elected Republicans. This is interesting. It's good stuff. And I got a million more things. I mean, probably the most substantive story of the day is when apparently a congressperson forgot the cameras were on and just started openly discussing the insane corruption we have with the big banks. Ugh, that story makes me sick. So we'll talk about all that and much, much more. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll jump into it here. So this is in Raw Story. They say virtually all abortions are now criminalized in Arizona after a judge reinstated an 1864 ban. 1864? 1864. All right, let's read the specifics. This is the first time I'm learning about this stuff, so I'm learning right here with you guys. A near total ban on abortion in Arizona that was written in 1864, but has been blocked since 1973, because of Roe, of course, can now be enforced. A Pima County judge ruled late Friday afternoon, criminalizing almost every abortion in the Grand Canyon state. In August, Attorney General Mark Brnovich asked the court to lift an injunction stopping enforcement of the territorial-era ban, which was implemented after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that women have a constitutional right to abortion services in Roe v. Wade. But those rights were reversed in June when the High Court overturned Roe. On Friday afternoon, Judge Kelly Johnson, woman, is it? Kelly's generally a female name. Interesting. Judge Kelly Johnson sided with the state and said the law, which had been reauthorized by Arizona's legislature in 1901 and again in 1977, can no longer be blocked. It outlaws all abortions except when the woman's life is in danger, though it's unclear exactly what that means. It contains no exceptions from pregnancies arising from rape or incest. Now, let me pause here to tell you guys, here's what we've seen in other states that have similar abortion bans. When they say the life of the mother needs to be in danger, they mean the mother literally needs to be in the process of dying while giving birth. So they don't mean, hey, we see this health issue that you have, and in 3 or 4 months, this is going to be life-threatening. In situations like that, they say, we're going to go ahead and roll the dice and try to have you give birth, And if you start dying on the table, then we'll provide the abortion. But if you're not dying on the table, too bad, basically. So when they say, the woman's life is in danger, they literally don't even allow exceptions for knowing months in advance that the life will be in danger. And by the way, there are many instances and complications with pregnancies where months in advance, like, hey, this is going to be a rough one. And even in those instances, they say, nope. So we're really talking about almost a complete abortion ban here. Again, rape, so you're going to force a woman who is raped to give birth to the baby that, this is from her accuser here. I mean, this is from accuser. No. Why is my brain not functioning today? I better chug some more Red Bull because I'm struggling this morning. From the criminal who forced himself on a woman, and you're going to force her to give birth to the criminal's baby. I mean, you want to talk about, like, trauma on top of trauma within trauma. Like, what the fuck are we really talking about here? Healthcare providers who violate the law face between 2 and 5 years in prison. Jesus Christ. You're gonna jail doctors. The ban was first enacted in 1864, a year after Arizona became a territory, and nearly 50 years before Arizona became a state in 1912. So this law was created before Arizona was a state. Jesus Christ. Planned Parenthood of Arizona had asked the court to rule that legislation passed since Roe regulating abortion should take precedence, including a 15-week abortion ban signed by Governor Doug Ducey earlier this year. That law was set to take effect this Saturday, and Ducey had said he believed it ought to override the Civil War-era ban. But Johnson concluded that Arizona lawmakers, the legislature has been controlled by Republicans for decades, had consistently said that abortion regulations were never intended to grant a right to abortion in the state, and even the 15-week ban passed this year specifically said it was not intended to supersede the 1864 abortion ban if Roe was overturned. All right, so this is interesting because, when you have Planned Parenthood asking the state of Arizona, hey, please enforce the 15-week abortion ban, we're in trouble. Because what they're saying is that's a lot more lenient than the 1864 abortion ban, so could we do that one instead? And apparently, the court says, no, even though you just passed a 15-week abortion one that's supposed to go into place on Saturday, we're going to let the old law supersede the new law. I mean, this is astonishing. So wait, I don't even understand the argument. What's the argument? Now, even if the legislature, let's say for argument's sake, passes some new legislation that protects a right to choose or allows it up to 20 weeks or something like that, is the court just going to step in and say, no, the 1864 law still holds, even though you've since overturned it and done new legislation? I mean, what are we even talking about here? What are we even talking about? This is tough to wrap your mind around. But Johnson concluded that Arizona lawmakers, the legislature has been... Oh, we already did that one. Anti-abortion advocates celebrated the win. Kathy Herod, president of the Center for Arizona Policy, a Christian lobbying group that advocates against abortion access, called it a signal to shift towards providing women resources for dealing with unplanned pregnancies. She called the ruling a triumph for the right to life. See, now this is the other thing that pisses me off. Because a lot of these different right-wing groups will say stuff like this now. Look. We're going to force you to have the baby, just so you know. But, we're also in favor of, all these other services that's going to make your life easier once you have the baby. And in this conversation is like paid maternity leave, paid vacation time, things of that nature. This is what they say, like, oh, expanded child tax credit. Well, it turns out when you actually get to a place where these people can vote on these issues, they're not in favor of them. Like, a bunch of Republican politicians have virtue signaled, like, maybe I do support paid maternity leave. Maybe I do support paid time off. Maybe I do support extending the child tax credit. And then when push comes to shove, it was all just empty rhetoric. They don't actually support it. And so this is what pisses me off even more, is that now even the media has been hoodwinked on this front, where they act like, oh, now you have this, pro-family Republican brand that, sure, they want to force you to have the baby, but at least they want to help you after you give birth to the baby. That's not true. They don't actually want to help. Quote, abortion ends one life and puts the woman at risk of physical and emotional harm, Arizona's abortion law effectively affirms that life is a human right and should not be sacrificed unless the mother's life is at risk, she said in a written statement. Brnovich hailed the decision on Twitter, praising it for its protection of unborn children in the state. Quote, "We applaud the court for upholding the will of the legislature and providing clarity and uniformity on this important issue. I have and will continue to protect the most vulnerable Arizonans," he tweeted. Planned Parenthood of Arizona, which oversees 4 of the 9 clinics in the state that provides abortion services, said that Johnson's decision flouted dozens of more recent laws which clearly allowed abortion in the state. Brittany Fonteno, the organization's president and CEO, promised to continue fighting for access in Arizona and criticized the total ban as dated and out of touch with current public sentiment. Yeah, I mean, look, this is one of the problems with when you have these far-right ideologues packing the judiciary. They just come up with any excuse or any rationalization or justification they can to just side with whatever their political will is. So they'll find an excuse, they'll find a rationalization to say, yeah, the 1864 ban stands, everything after that you could throw out. Even the 15-week one that they just passed, they're like, no, we're going to go more extreme than that. So, and this is why, look, the courts are super important. I mean, and this is something that the right has been ruthlessly organized on for a very long time. This is the whole point of like the Federalist Society, where they're like, okay, look, even if you want to give the legislature to Democrats and to the left, well, guess what? We're just going to take whatever you pass into law and slap it down and say, nah, it's unconstitutional, so we can't do the thing that you just democratically decided we're going to do. Man, there needs to be a counteroffensive on this front, man. You need to have good left judges who have reasonable interpretations of the Constitution and the laws so that you can protect people from this, what is effectively tyrannical body now. I mean, this is a tyrannical body. A poll from earlier this year found that as much as 90% of Arizonans agreed that family planning should be a choice free from political interference, and as much as 80% were against laws that threaten fines or jail time for doctors providing care that patients requested. Planned Parenthood of Arizona added that outlawing abortion would not reduce the need for the procedure, just force women to leave the state and deepen racial and economic inequalities. In the past decade, resident abortions in the state have steadily hovered around 13,000 per year. So, look, we've now seen this in a number of red states where they've gone so extreme with it that you have women being forced to give birth to a fetus with no skull. You have a woman, or a little girl, actually, who wasn't granted an abortion, even though she was 10 years old and she was raped. This is where we're at now, man. This is what's going on. And the only good news is that there is an electoral backlash to this. This is why in all the polls recently for special elections, what we found is the Democrats are undervalued in the polls. And then they ended up winning by some comfy margins. Upstate New York comes to mind, for example. So there is a backlash because this stuff is not going to stand. People are not cool with it. And I will say, I think that it's very possible that as a direct result of this decision, it hurts Kari Lake in the governor's race. And it helps the Democratic candidates running in the upcoming election. Because again, this is one of those things where if you poll it, hey, should we enforce this 1864 extreme abortion ban? It will do miserably. We've discussed the numbers with similar other policies, but it's as low as like 9% and maybe as high as like 13% that want like a full abortion ban. And that's really what we're talking about here, dog. That's really what we're talking about. So I feel for the state of Arizona. Hopefully this can get turned around quickly. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.